If something was lame, you called it loc.
Like loco?
LOC, which stood for lacking of cool.
Ah.
It comes from somewhere.
Yes.
Is that what tone loc means?
Girl, I don't know.
But what year was that? Tone Loc was earlier.
Tone Loc was
was in
like way
the 80s.
before this.
Yeah.
That was way before that.
Yeah, Bridget's a baby. Probably was a baby.
Yeah, I was literally a baby. Or not created yet.
That's a weird way of saying, or not created yet.
We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by
Lazy Gardener.
And Bridget. You can find me at youtube.com/@punkybrewster.
and we're here to discuss with you. Let's have a conversation on the 8th and final episode of season 3 titled Béésh, which means Iron Horse. Our last episode was March 29th, recorded on a Sunday, I believe.
Yep.
And that was the 7th episode of Dark Winds. Now we're here at the end of April to cover the season finale. Tonight is the public airing of the season finale. In our last episode discussion, we did discuss Daredevil Born Again. We brought that up because of Echo by Marvel, not Marvel's Echo, which I kept saying, which confused Bridget. But I did. I watched all of Daredevil Born Again. And
I haven't finished it yet.
And I'm just going to say this, that John Bernthal
Is Daddy.
elevated
that's
the Punisher.
inappropriate.
You should watch a version of the Punisher that was played by Ray Stevenson and then come back to me and we can discuss stylistic differences.
I've watched a lot of different Punisher. Which one is that one?
Ray Stevenson was between Thomas Jane and John Bernthal's portrayal, but it was still in the movies. And I think you would in particular love this version because it's the gory. Ray Stevenson is more taller and clean shaven. If you've seen him in Rome, and he was in classically the last role.
Oh,
he
yeah.
played.
Punisher Warzone. I've watched that.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really good. I really liked it. It is a really good one. That one did poorly critically, didn't it?
It did. I don't know why. It was so gory.
I don't either. It's
story
really
was
good.
so good.
It is really good.
The most accurate portrayal to date up to that movie.
In my head, every time someone says Ray Stevenson, I think of that guy, and it's probably not even his name, who did like those
Ray
country
Stevens.
comedies. Yes, that's what I think of every time. So,
It's
so when
me
you said
again,
Ray
Margaret.
Stevenson, I was like, yes, yes.
Almost like country parodies.
It's so funny. It's so dumb, but it's so funny. And that relates to payphones.
Which is something we talked about before we got on. And if you like that, you can always tip us and get the unedited episode recording, as well as join a membership tier so you can get that conversation.
We took a very interesting conversation before we came on, all about how we're really old.
Basically, print the microfiche, everybody. Print the microfiche.
Yeah.
All they did was press a button, goddammit, and it cost so much money.
Do you know how many people listening to this are going to be like, what's microfiche?
It's like fish, but they're small.
Actually, fiche means plug. It's a French word.
Whatever, Dave.
Like
You're
an
like
electrical
so
plug.
fancy or Canadian or whatever, but
Canadian or whatever. Touche, Bridget, touche. All right, well, let's just end the housekeeping there. But again, if you want to buy some of our merch, namely both our art designs, which I feel like are both art designs, even though one is a logo design, one is the art design. They both have the logo, they're just in different settings. One is with the crow behind it, which is what I call the logo design. The other one has what was typically our red moon is now a blue moon with the tree from the second season and the crow hanging off of it and the logo just behind it. There's some blurring done to it. It's pretty cool. I think you should take a look at it, maybe decide, hey, I'd like to buy that. Or maybe you don't. But then again, I'll announce this more in the next episode, is that there's the Last of Us logo design in our merch store, which looks really fly. I just ordered a copy of it in gray with the
Not
gray
fly.
background. It's fly and on fleek. And also, what's the next term?
chuggy.
What?
Chuggy.
That's a thing?
It was a thing. It's not really anymore. But yeah.
Chuggy. You have more Riz than me, Bridget.
I do. That's like a well-documented fact.
Looking it up on microfiche right now. A big trackball. Oh, it turns out you do. Print microfiche.
Someone wrote an article about it like a long time ago.
Yeah, I told you I'm printing it now.
I
Wait,
know.
I have to make the printer sounds that annoy me during our recordings. Iron Horse is the meaning of Béésh. How does the title relate to this season 3 finale episode? It's a tougher one.
Iron Horse?
Yeah.
It's a train.
I think it also refers to Budge's construction equipment that he's using
Oh, the earth mover kind of
to,
thing?
yeah, that he's using to try to bury Bernadette. And maybe it's also Joe himself. He is like the train. He keeps going. He pulls everybody with him. That's all
Well,
I
it's
got.
kind of like life, isn't it? Life keeps moving regardless of whether or not you want it to stop.
He's stuck on a track.
That keeps moving.
He was put on that track when he was a kid, and now he's
Okay.
still on it.
Okay. Which does come up in a weird roundabout way. Henry has that conversation at the end, which we'll go back to and talk more about. But we talked a lot in this season about Henry, Joe's father, sending his son to the boarding schools, then to ASU, just to follow that track. But then when you get to the end of the episode, they have that conversation. It's clear that Joe is following a textbook that isn't quite Navajo when it comes to justice and doing what's right, technically speaking, where he still has the guilt of the thing that he did, even though it was the right thing. And then Sylvia comes in to represent that other half of him. And then Henry kind of like looks at him and says, you're still thinking in those terms. Because I don't think that way. I don't recognize that I have to pay a cost. I don't trade the good things that I have in my life because of the things that I've done. That's a very non-native way of thinking. You can still have good things in your life. Original sin is one of those tenets. Like, we're all born of sin. Well, no, I don't think the Navajo think that way either, or most native tribes.
I took something else from that conversation. I felt like it was really just Henry's way of saying, I fought to still have the
A
woman I
life.
love, the
Right.
life that I wanted. I fought for it. I didn't just
I
let it
agree.
go.
But I was thinking, as far as me bringing this up and being on a track, Henry put him on that track. So, of course, he picked up those things
Well,
along the
yeah.
way.
And when he tried to deviate from the track his father put him on, he completely jumped the track because his life has gone completely off track now. He doesn't have his wife. He doesn't have his son. He's completely off track. And that was
But
because
had he not put him on that track, he would have never found Emma. So there's this weird two things can be true thing. Weird, you know what I mean?
I think in his father's eyes, that was part of him going off track. Henry was disappointed that Joe stayed on the reservation for Emma.
He came back. Yeah, right. Because he wanted him to go off and do things outside of the res. Yeah, I get it. Yet he chides him about having this weird mixed culture mentality where you're carrying this guilt, but that's not us. That's not our way. But wait, wasn't I supposed to learn to not be our way? So what do you want me to be, Dad?
I've got another one.
It's going to go back to the obvious. Go ahead.
Well, a little bit. Well, when we talk about horses and their uses in the past, it was for moving items of large and heavy weight that a human will have difficulty moving. So the semis, the oil tankers,
Right.
moving the product back and forth. Some might say an iron mule.
All right.
I like
see
that
you.
all of my jokes have been awkwardly received so far today.
We're on a track and then we suddenly got thrown off of it, which is fine. We can climb aboard another train, be hobos. That's a word we can still use, right? Hobos? With
I don't think so.
little stick and the clothes in the back or whatever. Is it?
What
Sardine
is that
sandwiches?
called? That has a name.
A trundle?
A bindle.
A bindle. Bridget.
A
same
trundle is a
mind.
bed.
Well,
Same,
I'm a published author, Dave. Of course I know what a bindle is.
same energy, Bridget. I did look it up really quick and I just put Iron Horse Navajo in my search engine. This is the level of research that's done here. It says, quote unquote, Iron Horse is a term referring to a train or locomotive. So literally what is referred to as. In the context of Navajo culture, the Iron Horse, quote unquote, represents the arrival of railroads into Native American communities, including the Navajo Nation, and the subsequent impact on their lives and ways of life. So that conversation between Joe and Henry is more rich knowing that. Henry's all about Joe going off to the schools, but then does this weird, what are you talking about? That's not our way. This guilt thing that you have. This is the other way. But it's your fault, Dad. I learned it from watching you. Talk about old things, old PSAs. Oh, she doesn't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I know you know.
Oh, I learned it from you? Yeah, that's well
It's been
stated.
reposted in recent
Yeah.
years, every 10 years. I'm not a chicken, you're a turkey. Anyway, this is your brain on drugs. 90s.
I know that one well.
Yeah, 'cause
Rachel
you're a
Lee
kid then.
Cook.
That was the remake of that one. Yes, there was an original one. Yeah,
Well-
this is how old I am. Rachel Lee Cook was the more sexy yet crazy version of it, in my opinion. Because then this is your brain on drugs, and this is your brain on meth. And then she like started smashing things or something, if I remember right.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
smashing everything.
In the late 80s, there was one or mid 80s, it was just a black frying pan and somebody cracked the egg in it while it was on and there was like, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. And that was like the whole commercial.
Any questions?
Yeah, any
It
questions?
was just a voiceover. There's no person in there.
You
no
just saw the
sexy
egg frying.
Rachel Lee Cook.
Us 80s
no.
kids, we didn't need that.
While I was watching this episode a second time, taking notes, I was thinking to myself, something that you had said, Bridget, at the end of the last episode. You were like, show me more of this. Joe Leaphorn and the whole figuring out it was Reynolds and blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden it goes to Bernadette. You're like, end the episode. I don't want this. I felt that way about Bernadette this episode.
Yeah, where you're like, just show me what's happening. Why do you keep cutting back to the other story? I don't care about that right now.
Yeah, I don't care about the train and George Bowlegs. And actually, you know that they're going to find Reynolds.
Because I found out who the bad guy is.
Yeah. The rest is all paperwork.
Let me figure out what's going on with this truck and how are they shipping it and what happened to the yellow balls and why is that not the plan they were using and why was it like, surprise, tricked you.
Wow, that's it. We end it here and then I can edit it and then it goes out after the... Bridget, you just made my job so much easier. There's nothing else to talk about, Bridget. You did it. Surprise, it tricked you.
It really pissed me off.
So you're agreeing with me. You're like, I want to know more about this. I don't want to know about the train and Bowlegs and all that
100%,
drama.
yeah.
It's just interesting how our minds flipped.
There are several things that made me mad in this episode, but none of them had to do with the writing, the acting, none of it. It all had to do with this podcast and the things that we've said on this podcast. That's what made me mad.
We spun such yarns on theories and made backstories for people that didn't get backstory.
There's a shot that hung on Gordo, and I was like, is he the bad guy now? And then I was like, see, I wouldn't have thought that normally, but Sharon D had to go and say it. And so now she's wrecked it for me.
Then you kind of slap your hand. You're like, no.
No, he's not a bad guy.
He's
Stop
a good guy
thinking
throughout
it.
the entire season.
But also, why did they get on the train and he didn't get on the train? Did that mean that he was really with the bad guy? I don't know.
I'll cover the rear.
Yeah.
No, he's just old and he needs to stretch before he runs. And it's like, screw it. My back hurts. I was so endearing, actually. But then it wasn't endearing because we could suspect him of being a murderer. He doesn't have the energy to be a murderer.
It's true. Okay? Yeah, he's too tired.
How's things going with Barbara?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
It was just 2 days ago.
Don't you think that like Border Patrol would start noticing that their cars are missing? He's burying an awful lot of cars out in the desert is all I'm saying.
He is.
But never
that's his
U.S.
plan.
Border Patrol one. Just random pickups and possibly white vans, although we did see the Mixtec family in the white van at the end, the same white van. But no, by the way, because we'd seen him bearing the first car with Panther. May he rest
Panther.
in peace.
R.I.P.
Seeing it the second time attempted with Bernadette's patrol van thing made me think of that Fear the Walking Dead season 7 episode with June Dory / Jenna Elfman with the buses that were underground to be used as fallout shelters by the hippies, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that cool memory? We went into researching a whole plot of land.
I blocked most of that season out of my head.
But there were so many cool things about researching that.
I do remember us talking about it, though.
Yeah, there's this whole swath of land with school buses underground that were meant to be used as fallout shelters in the event of, a decade prior to this episode airing, I think, or somewhere in the middle of that Red Scare situation with the nuclear weapons stuff.
Well, I don't know what everybody was so scared about. It could just crawl under your desk and you'd be fine.
Yeah, duck and cover, baby.
So, it seems like you guys were overreacting.
Duck and cover.
Just look at the microfiche, kids that are terrified.
I got a printout from it right here.
Yeah, I framed it.
That would have been incredible if you did.
Let's talk about Bernadette. There's the obvious, the scene where she's being buried.
I love that Joe was like her inspiration to figure out what she needed to do because she was totally panicking. She was just trying to pull her arm through, trying to get the handcuff off. And then she looked over at the feather from Joe and like, oh, this is what I need to do. It calmed her down, let her think about it.
It's still WWJD. It's just what would Joe
What would Joe do? It's really great that he did that. Otherwise, she would have been trying to stab Budge with a belt buckle, and I don't think it would have worked as well.
Yeah. Well, they do have a pointy side. A little,
A little tab thing that goes into the loop. I think Bernadette would have gone into U.S. Border Patrol regardless of the events that transpired in season 1, season 2, and prior to season 1, where Joe Jr. dies in this mining accident. And so it really made me think, had Joe Jr. not died, for Joe Sr. to melt down the belt buckle to give to Bernadette, she wouldn't have had that weapon with her and used it as a weapon against Budge in that fight scene. We often wonder, why do things happen? In real life, I wouldn't make these statements because you're not really supposed to know God's plans, the things in the universe that align in such a way to make things available for you in the future.
I think those things can show themselves in your life if you choose to see things that way. Now, to be fair, I'm religious, so that's where that comes from. But horrible things have happened in my life. And honestly, it's hard to justify like domestic violence to be like, yeah, I was hit by my boyfriend because I needed to learn a lesson. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
She saw my bug eyes going, what? You said that
That's
out
not what I'm
loud?
saying.
Yeah,
That's
I
not
get
what
it.
I'm saying. What I'm saying is I did learn lessons during that time that I may not have learned otherwise. So I can see the silver lining in it. Does that mean that it needed to happen? No, of course not. But sin and horrible things are real and horrible things happen in life. In my opinion, can God use those to teach you things? Of course he can.
But he can also say, let's just say this to kind of kosher it up a little bit. It's kind of like the pollen path. Everybody goes through this circuitous path and then they stumble upon a thing that threatens to alter them forever. Whether
Yes.
it alters them, whether it doesn't,
Yes.
is up to them. And sometimes people get stuck.
I'm sorry. It's very serious. I'm just thinking of you editing me saying that.
No, I'm not going to. That's
So I
fine.
had to be taught.
Had to smack me around to be taught a lesson. I'm not saying that at all.
That's
That's not me.
what I meant.
It's kind of like me saying, had you not been smacked around, would you have found this podcast? I don't know.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I would
Who
never say
knows?
that to you because that's terrible. But I just did, so it's weird.
I don't take offense to it. I learned a lot of lessons throughout that time. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't even have to do necessarily with just my faith. It's just like choosing to see the silver lining of horrible things that happen in your life. You can choose to just roll on through and be like, well, life sucks and that's all it is. But like, do you want to be around people who feel that way? I don't. They're hard to be around. I've been around them before. They're not easy people to get along with.
Emotional oxygen. Remember we were talking about it in the Last of Us episode?
So I choose to see, okay, yeah, did that happen in my life? Sure. I was hit by a guy who I thought loved me, and that doesn't make any sense. And I can't really wrap my head around that. However, during that time, I figured out exactly what it was that I didn't want in a relationship. And now I have a wonderful husband who supports me and takes care of me and is not doing horrible things like that. So it led me to that point in my life. So I just view that as this was part of the pollen path I had to take. Do I wish that I had taken another path, that I was given an easier one? Yeah, man, it sucked. But
I agree.
them's the breaks, kid.
Part of actually having suffering or having suffered is learning that that's happening everywhere and that that's going to
Yeah.
happen. That's the nature of living, is suffering. Why does it exist? Well, why do people do bad things? Which kind of brings us back to this episode.
I see other people have like really easy times, in my opinion, in comparison. But we have to remember too, pain is relative. So what may look easy to us in someone else's life, their dog dying could be the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Would that be super sad for me? Yeah. Is it anywhere near the worst thing that's ever happened to me? No, not at all. But for somebody else, that could be, because that's relative. You just kind of have to view it that way.
And then them seeing your suffering helps minimize your suffering, as long as you don't say your dog died. Ew, my family died in a car crash and then that car crash went on fire. What do you have to be sorry about? Don't do that. Whatever I just did
So
now.
What you're both
Don't do
saying is everybody's feelings are valid.
Please don't compare your dog dying to someone's family dying.
And then the car
Please just don't do
going on
that.
fire. Don't do that.
But yeah,
But what I was going to say was actually that it's an opportunity to look at somebody else's suffering and learn from it, rather than it being a thing that makes you want to push people away,
yeah.
which is the natural reaction, it's kind of unfortunate. When you go through some sort of suffering, some level of suffering, your natural instinct, depending on the suffering, is to push people away, to be alone, to say you don't understand my pain. And yet
Yes.
really, everybody really kind of does. It's weird, hardwired programming, forcing us to kind of push through our own obstacles to kind of see the other person who is suffering too, or the other person who is us.
Well, and everyone's going to keep chugging along. Your
Like
life
the
might
train.
stop, but everybody else is going to keep chugging along. I don't know. This is all to say, I guess you just have to accept some things, and you can choose to see the silver lining in them and take a lesson from it and move on, or you can choose to feel absolutely miserable about everything in your life and then drag people down around you. I don't recommend it. It's not fun to be around you when you do that. So just don't do it.
Yeah. Don't trade in suffering, but also don't bum people out, man. That's the biggest emotional
Just
takeaway.
don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I was a little underwhelmed by it as a finale. I don't know what I expected, but I expected more.
A lot of things are left hanging. Not like the main thing, but like the storylines of the people that we care about. You have hope. That's enough. That's kind of where it's left hanging. Now, I think maybe that becomes more poignant given a little bit of time and space from it.
I agree. I want to put a finer point on what Sharon said, because I too felt not underwhelmed even, but specifically what we were saying earlier. The storyline with them going onto the train and looking for Reynolds. I would say a lot of that could be cut out, but of course you can't cut it out. There's meat to the pursuit. There are scenes in that I would love to discuss, because the more you really kind of analyze some particular parts, particularly the end, the more you can dig on it. There's nothing wrong about action and going through a journey and actually going through the train. There's visual storytelling there, the choices people make as they go through the cars, that's fine. But the overall arc, I figured we were kind of done with. And there were two specific critiques I could have made about that scene. Maybe we should go through that first. Let's just get it out of the way. It's kind of like a thing where you have to have that scene, these scenes with the train. There has to be motion there. There has to be a resolution.
Well, you have to resolve the story. You can't just leave it hanging.
You made the call in episode 7. Now you have to respond to it.
I really don't know why it didn't grab me. A train, it should be action, but for some reason it felt flat.
For me, it was because in the previous episode, you figure out who it is that did it. So there's no more anticipation of the mystery. On top of that, the other storylines are so compelling. You want to know what's going to happen with Joe and Emma. You want to know what's going to happen with Bernadette. You want to know what's going to happen with Bernadette and Chi. You want to know what's going to happen with Bernadette and what's his face? I don't remember. Ivan. You want to know all these other things that this now, because you're like, I know that guy did it. And they're going to find George and it's all going to be fine.
Yeah, there's all these other unresolved things.
Get it out of the way. I just want to hear about the other stuff that I'm really anticipating. So I just think it's that the writing on the other storylines is so compelling. It's just like creating a distraction to that main final wrap up. Because up to this point, we did want to know all about that. We did want to know what was going to happen. We know who did it. It's confirmed. He's not necessarily like a super bad guy.
He's not intimidating or scary.
He's more like ambiguous than anything else.
Yeah.
So
this is where we'll start.
Okay.
Because that is perfect. I love that you did it that way. And you're right. It's like a double-sided coin. Because on the one hand, isn't the start of this episode a perfect representation of we're not monsters? There are no monsters. It's just people doing bad things. Because Joe had to go through a fever dream and resolve these two sides of him warring, the thing that is right and the thing that is just. Am I a monster now? Was BJ Vines a monster? Yeah, eat so, that whole thing. But then you get to the beginning of this episode and it's Reynolds patching him up in that dirty gas station bathroom or whatever it was. And you realize, oh, he's bleeding. He's a man. And then he goes to Teddy Isaacs and he's incredulous. He's like, why wouldn't you want to work with me? I'm still me. But then
that part was insane.
I was mad at Teddy for like, I'm going to call the cops. Girl, just leave. What are you doing?
And there's other things that are similar to that. The train itself, there was a point at which you know the reason why the train couldn't be held. Because you don't want to tip off George because George is going to run away. You don't want to tip off Reynolds because Reynolds is just going to run away. That's what they want to do. So you let the train continue running. Everybody boards the train as normal. That's fine. But then at a certain point, when Natalie sees George and George sees Natalie and they know, oh, the cops are at the station. Similarly, just prior to that scene where George sees Natalie and Natalie sees George, Reynolds sees the cop in the engineering car with all the supplies. And it's not even the train car that is the one that pulled into the station. It's like an adjoining train that he thought he could hang out in before the train came. He knows. They don't know that he knows necessarily. That's fine. But at a certain point, they're like, hey, move away, stand aside. Reynolds, and they see him. At that point, they could have held the train. Do you agree with that? Or is there a defense for what I'm saying? The narrative idea of the train still moving would have been moot. The Iron Horse.
Yeah, that's true. You didn't really need it to keep moving. But in fact, actually, that's quite dangerous to keep it moving because now you've got
passengers,
a potentially armed criminal aboard, and you're like, oh, it's fine, just let it go, which is a bit weird now that you say that. But
yeah, I feel like they should have stopped the train and gone through car by car trying to find them or something.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. It's the writing, right? And then you get a scene where they both jump onto the train.
Right. I was trying to think of like a logic of why they didn't stop the train. And there's a couple of things I thought of just in defense of, and that is, it's quite possible this may not even be their jurisdiction, but they do have Senna. So he's like the county sheriff. So there's that.
It's a little bit weird, the choice to...
But then there's, if the train is moving, there's a less of a likelihood of them jumping off of it.
Yeah.
Because that's dangerous because of the speeds it's going. And so they would be more likely to be on the train. But then why would you endanger all the passengers? Why would you risk that in the pursuit of a criminal / runaway? Again, by the way, we should temper these critiques because it doesn't really change the way I feel about this episode at all, really. But it's just one of those things you wonder. There are good reasons.
No, it's a good point. Yeah, it doesn't change the way I feel about the episode.
There's not much of a critique for Teddy Isaacs a little bit, although you could say she was in shock. She doesn't know what to do at this point. She's not Bernadette. I thought it was a good contrast with Bernadette, whom we've criticized to high hell throughout the season. Not in a scathing way, but Bernadette is headstrong. She has her faith, and she goes into some of these situations that you feel in some senses is reckless, but there is a way about her that is pretty adept. She's good on her feet, so why wouldn't she trust her instincts? Whereas Teddy Isaacs can't do the same thing.
She's a
Wait.
scientist.
And then once he tries to bust through the door, I'm calling the police. I'm like, whoa, wait, you should have done that first.
I know. Well,
Or not at all.
part of that is like she knows what he did, but he did that to a child and she's an adult and his colleague. So I think there's a level of like, this guy is not really threatening because he doesn't come off as threatening in any of these scenes. You're worried that he's going to try to do something, but I'm not worried at any point that George is going to be hurt. He's on a train full of people.
True. And there's reconciling the men you know for all this time versus the men they say did this thing.
Yeah.
And
Also, if
It's
you're going to
hard.
kill
I get it.
George, when he finally catches him, he takes the time to drag him out of the room where they were alone and hidden.
Mm-hmm.
And drags him out into the open where everybody can see him and he can be stopped. I didn't understand that move either. You've got him trapped in the crew room. He can't go anywhere. But instead of doing the job he came to do right there, which I'm not saying I wanted George to die. I'm just saying I don't understand the reasoning behind the move of dragging him out in the open instead of just killing. You wanted to kill him. Well, kill him right here where you've got him in this room where there's nobody else. Close the door. He can't go anywhere. But instead, you're going to take the time to drag him out kicking and screaming in front of all the people on the train.
I can give you an answer. I don't know if it'll be satisfactory, but I know two things about close quarters firing of pistols. One is the sound. You
True.
could damn near go deaf because of the power from the gun in that enclosed space. But there's another factor too. Those trains are made of metal, and the ricochet effect alone could mean that you end up hurting yourself,
Well, he
even
didn't
if it
have
passes
to
through
shoot
the
him,
body.
though. I mean, he could have hit him with the gun and bashed his head in or something. Now, not only is he not killed the kid, but he's got this dead weight with him that he's, instead of getting away on his own, he's dragging this kid around.
I get it. Well, also, George gave him a hard time too.
Got a couple things to mention. One, this could be his subconscious fighting against these actions. Deep down, I don't think the scientist is really that bad of a guy. So this could be like accidental self-sabotage. He doesn't want to kill any of these people, really. He's doing it to preserve his legacy, which is just such a ridiculous concept, but that's what this is all about. I want to mention personally that anytime that there is a scene like the one with Teddy Isaacs where she is pushed and she falls into the corner of something.
Worst nightmare.
Due to this being a trope in Hollywood, I'm terrified of that happening. I have fainted in my own kitchen at one point. This was a couple years ago. And I fell. And at the time we still have it. It's a kitchen island and the top is concrete.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, thank God I crumpled forward in the kitchen because I would have died. Are our skulls made out of butter? No. But that is often what Hollywood would like us to believe.
But a slow fall is better than a full fall, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to say most, but a good portion of the falls that are fatal in that manner where you hit your head is because you get a concussion and your brain swells. You don't die immediately upon hitting whatever you hit.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that I am also afraid that if I were arguing with someone that this would happen and I would accidentally kill someone that way. And that is horrifying to me.
Yeah, I'm a little conscious of
I
that
have a
too.
lot of fear around this. It's like how I felt in the 90s about quicksand and the Bermuda Triangle. I was very concerned about both.
Same energy on that too, because one is a little out there, like meaning that's far away. The first one is in every room almost. It's like right here.
Yeah.
Quicksand.
But quicksand.
No,
and,
he meant the table.
Yeah.
Quicksand's
no, the second
everywhere.
thing. The
It's
first thing
literally
is
every room
that's
in my
there.
house.
I just wanted to share with you a sort of every week sort of thing. When we're loading and unloading the dishwasher in the kitchen and Evelyn and I happen to be in the same room, Evelyn doesn't usually care about my bodily safety at all, which is very, very clear. But whenever I walk into the kitchen, she goes, I have the dishwasher open. I just want you to be careful around here. It's because she watched the movie Garden State. That's how the protagonist's mom
Yes, she becomes a quadriplegic or whatever.
It affected her to that degree.
He pushed her and she fell over the thing and hit her head.
Right, she fell backwards, right?
Yeah.
It affected her and traumatized her to the point where she doesn't want that to happen to me.
When you started saying that, I was like, he's going to say Garden State.
It's the worst thought that you never thought to have. And now it's the only thought you have every time you open the dishwasher. How did we get here? Well, falling over suitcases and hitting our heads on tables. And I want to really zero in on that because that's where I first started getting the idea of, well, it's true that it's just people. It's just people doing bad things and the things that good people have to do to stop them. But also what can be true is realizing that you're the villain in your own story rather than the hero and leaning into that life. He chooses to stay in the motel room until the time of the train departure or whatever. He chooses to put Teddy Isaacs in his trunk rather than leave her in the hotel room or the motel room, whatever it is. He chooses to go after George. He continues down this. He could have stopped and quit, but he chose to be the villain. I have to see this through. Because there's a certain point at the end of that saga where he's in the observation car, where there's that railing and there's the outdoors, and Joe convinces him to let George go. And that scene was pregnant with a bunch of staring and convincing Dr. Reynolds to let him go. He's just a boy. This ruined my life. No, he didn't. He's just a boy. Ergo, he made a mistake. He didn't know any better. He wasn't trying to expose you, and nothing would have happened at all to you. But you mistakenly thought that this kid was out to ruin your life, or the other kid too, Ernesto Cata. But then you continued making mistakes.
Well, and he made sure that they ruined his life by killing one of them and trying to kill the other one.
You ended your life by doing that. And for what? You weren't getting justice. This is like why it's interesting to compare Reynolds with Leaphorn in that respect. What was it for? Well, it was to cover a wrong thing instead of a right thing. And then you continuing to choose the wrong thing. And I think when he lets George go, he finally realizes, I'm a person who was already doing a wrong thing, tried to cover it up with a worse thing, and then went after another kid to continue to cover it up. There are several stages. We kind of went through it, which is why we have a hard time accepting this narrative a little bit, or this episode, is that he continued doing the wrong thing to get to this point. There was a certain point where he could have, like you said, he could have shot him in the car and it'd be over with. What was the point of even going after George? Your career is already over.
Because I was thinking about this. I'm like, why are you still going after George when you know all these people? They know it's you. He doesn't know that they know. I mean, he knows that maybe they're suspicious, but he doesn't know that the cops are after him. They've shot at him or whatever, but they didn't see him the whole time. And he doesn't know that they figured out the arrowhead thing. So he's still going after George in hopes that he can wrap up this last little loose end and get away with it, because they still don't know who he is. They don't know his car. They haven't seen his face. The only reason they figure it out is because of the arrowhead, and he doesn't know that they've done that.
The arrowhead and the witness. Where he screwed up is already going after George. If he would have let George go away, he could have gotten away with it. But like I said, he continued to do bad things and make mistakes. And so you're in this situation where you have the very witness in your arms as the police are riding up on you. And literally, if you continue going down this path, it's over anyway. You already caught. Don't make it worse by ending a child. And this is the thing. When he says it's just a boy, when Reynolds looks down at George, this dovetails really, really neatly to the conversation we had about in episode 7. How can somebody value a child's life so less? The children are our future, that sort of thing. And then you stack that against an artifact, a legacy or whatever. And that was the realization. Whatever it is that I was trying to protect is done. And so do I continue down the path of embracing the villain just for the sake of embracing the villain, being the monster? Or am I really just a man who, first of all, did a wrong thing, covered up with a worse thing, and is about to cover it up again because it's not covering it up anymore with an even worse thing by killing another kid? It's over. So am I ready to go that far? Because I'm not really a monster. I'm able to see that this boy's value as a kid who also made a mistake. Wasn't trying to hurt me. He's just a boy. I do break into things and I spray graffiti.
Do you think that killing BJ Vines and the resulting trauma that Joe has made him second guess shooting the professor? Because she doesn't care. Whatever, dude was going to shoot you, bang, bang, he's gone. Joe was hesitating. Any one of those moments, he was justified in shooting the dude. Is it the lingering trauma from killing BJ Vines that is stopping Joe from doing what he's going to end up having to do anyway?
I don't think it's hesitation. I think he sees a little of himself in Reynolds. Not much, but having killed somebody, he sees the monster in him is the monster in you. We're all capable of bad things. There's the other half of him that is the cop. First principles justice, that we bring people to a jury of their peers. And ideally, that's the way to go. Because he wanted to arrest him. He should be brought to justice. And it's his way of also kind of brick by brick kind of rebuilding his house after killing BJ Vines. Is kind of reestablishing his life, building something like at the end of this episode. In the end of the day, I think it really comes down to, it's like he knows that he can go back to the way he was to arrest people.
You're just confirming what I said. We talked about learning lessons earlier. Killing BJ Vines taught him a lesson that killing people isn't the answer. In the essence, that is making him hesitate and taking an action that he may have to take.
I'm thinking the other way. That's what I'm saying. I think not having killed Reynolds or not having shot him outright when he let George go told him that he can go back to the way things were. That's more what I'm thinking, that he can give the man a chance to turn himself in, that I'm not a cold-blooded killer, that there was a reason. I didn't do this out of anger or the heat of the moment. I could have stopped the car at any point, but I knew I needed to do this. But with Reynolds, it was more like I can still go back to doing things the quote-unquote right way. That's what I was trying to say. It's not about hesitation.
Yeah, it's just
about
like a fluke.
more like a mulligan.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to do that again. It's different. It was my son. I didn't actually kill him. I just took him out in the desert.
And let the earth do its work.
Yeah. I can see what you're saying. Both of you are to some degree saying the same.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
two sides of the same coin.
I agree. I think there's a little bit of both in that. And to know that it doesn't change your principles or your values, to know that you can reconnect with the world and society and not have that thing change you, which does go to the fact that, yes, we are just men. We don't automatically turn into winged creatures with horns when we do a bad thing. And that's not me. Not seeing yourself as the villain is the key to this. And slowly but surely, the way he behaves informs himself of his character and who he is. At every step along the way, even the humor with Senna at the beginning about having sex with Barbara and things shriveling up over time is another brick or another tell in his life that he can go back to a normal life and make jokes and talk about nonsense and have a life. And then it goes to the end of the episode where I'm just building things. And Henry goes, that's the first step. Just recognizing that every brick of normal life or being able to go back to it should be encouraging. That you can have a normal life after tragedy and trauma and doing bad things. That you can repay your debt even. Reynolds, you could have just put the gun down, atoned for your crimes. You have to deal with that in whatever way you can with your maker, whatever it is. That there is a way back for you. You just have to work hard for it.
Well, isn't that kind of what Henry was trying to tell Joe at the end of the episode? Isn't that kind of what the interview tape of Emma saying that she hopes to be able to forgive him one day? It's all selling the same point. You can still have hope after that your life can be normal. Even though you feel reluctant, you know that you did a bad thing. Shouldn't even say reluctant because he said he would do it again, given the opportunity. But he knows that
it comes with a cost.
It comes at a cost. And for him, really, it's your sense of peace. But he viewed it as being Emma. I don't think it has to be Emma. I think it can be something else, but you feel bad that you did this bad thing. So you're willing to let something go. But that's what his dad was trying to tell him. It's okay. It doesn't have to be that. You can still fight for the woman that you love.
It's so strange.
And Henry doesn't even like her. So the fact that he says that is wild.
But he knows that his son loves her. So, and he does care about his son's
he's
happiness.
Being a good dad.
Well, life is kind of taking the air out of his sails. So it's kind of like, whatever. Just be happy. I don't care anymore.
As
about
often
your
happens
ASU.
with bad dads, they soften over time.
Yeah. Yikes.
Well, I said I've lived through a lot of stuff, Dave, and a lot of it's been bad.
I think if there's anybody that Joe sees himself in, it's George. When George is like, I blame myself, it's my fault. And he's like, it's not your fault. Some bad men took his life and you couldn't stop it.
Yeah, a bad man did a bad thing.
Right.
You just made a mistake.
And that's exactly Joe. A bad man took his son's life and he couldn't stop it. And they both blame themselves.
Well, and I think it just goes to show that he can see himself in everyone, which is really cool. If you think about it, he can see himself in Reynolds. He can see himself in George. He can see himself in Senna. The whole 24 years and 42 years? Come on, don't tell me you weren't thinking, oh, these are just two people seeing the other sides of themselves. That he hopes one day to be Gordon Senna. Things are kind of great. Life is life and police work is police work, but I hope to make it to an age where I can have a life with my wife and normal relations that are, 2 days a week. Sounds great at 60-something years old.
Well, I think as you get older, when you're young, you're like, no matter what, I just never want my life to be boring. And then as you get older, you're like, boring's like pretty great, honestly.
Compared to what it could be.
Yeah.
Horrible. Like, especially after watching this show. I don't want that to happen in my life. Not that. No Budge in my life,
what we used to
please.
view as boring isn't actually boring. It's finding contentment where you are. It's a form of complacency that's not negative. It doesn't have to be negative. We just view it that way when you're young and dumb and full of you know what.
Yeah, I know. There was like, is she going there?
Full of gum.
And full of gum. Yeah.
Right, because he keeps swallowing it. You idiots. It goes to what Charity, you just said it was just before the show started. Oh, the internet's horrible when once we thought it was absolutely amazing that we could connect with people from different states and countries.
I still think that's awesome. But the problem is once I get to know some of those people that I meet, that's the problem.
This all stemmed from you saying, I don't want to be on social media. I don't even want to talk to half the people I know. 'Cause I don't want to talk to, I'd rather touch grass.
I want to be like Thoreau and go live out by a pond and write bad
David
poetry and play with my dog. I said I would
Well,
write
you said
bad
your
poetry, not
would be
his.
bad. Note that I said Henry David Thoreau wasn't that bad.
To be fair, you are published, so it must not be that.
Poetry.com. Folks,
In an
just look for
actual
Sharon D.
book. Did I use my real name? I don't.
Well, audience, tell us if you found Sharon D, Sherandy, on poetry.com. And tell us what you
It
think
would
about her
be
poetry.
circa 1992 or 93, somewhere around in there. So good luck. Go for it. It involved The Hobbit. Make of that what you will.
Wow, now I want to know what this is.
Wait a minute. Before we go away from George, I just want to say one thing. I watched the movie Horizon, the new Kevin Costner movie that's like 3.5 hours long. George Bowlegs is in that, the actor. He looks like he's about 8 years old in it.
Oh, wow. He's moving up in the world. Ends up on Dark Winds.
It's a really interesting movie. It's the first half because there's 2 parts, I guess. And they only released the first part. It's actually pretty good once you get into it if you're into Westerns. Just like in the very first episode of the very first season, he's driving his car and there's people on the side of the road and he just drives by them. And he is also driving another kid to his family.
Yes. And it was both their teacher. When he was in school, he had the same teacher. George had the same. But you'll notice, yes, it's the same teacher that is awful and is constantly getting both of them in trouble. That's true. But you'll notice as they drive by, she does do the I'm watching you with the fingers and the eyes. But she has this wry smile, too. It's like, I'm still watching you, but good job sort of smile. Like, good for you. You did good. Turnabout is fair play sort of situation.
I really enjoyed the little smirk that she and George share with each other after seeing the teacher doing the thing. It's just sweet. And I love the song choice at that time too, because it's kind of this like whole viewpoint of I don't always fit in, square peg in a round hole kind of situation. Because that's how Chi felt growing up. And I imagine this a little bit how George feels now, especially now after experiencing this trauma. Other kids his age are not going to be able to relate to him at all. It's kind of this idea that we're still going to be okay. We're going to be able to move on with life. It's going to be fine.
I feel you. And the song was good. But guess what? I tried to look it up.
It's not real.
It's not real. But then again, it is real.
It sounded very specific. It seemed like it was written for the show. Yeah.
I may be right that it was written and sung by Kiowa J. Gordon.
I would absolutely love that. Also, then drop your album, bro, or your SoundCloud, because I want to listen to it.
Good that you're here, because that led me down a rabbit hole where I found his SoundCloud.
Stop. He really does have a SoundCloud? I was kind of
Bridget,
joking. I love it.
You would love it because it's so emo.
Yeah.
His last entry was from 8 years ago.
Oh, no, you found his live journal, Dave. Oh, my God.
2, he actually did drop an album with a band about 14 or 15 years ago.
Wow.
Around the time when he was in Twilight, alongside Alex Maraz.
Yeah.
Alex Maraz and he were both wolf buddies.
Wow. But you still cast a white man as your main wolf. Twilight.
Was he?
Do better.
Is he white?
Taylor Lautner?
Yeah, isn't he?
Yes, he's white.
Art something?
No, I felt like he was just straight up.
I feel like we need to look that up.
Maybe I do. Maybe I'm causing problems. Maybe I'm the problem.
No, I wouldn't fault you for it, but Dutch, French, and German. Okay, that's why he looks a little darker.
So, yeah, he's super white. Do better, Twilight.
He has distant Native American ancestry.
Okay, so does every white guy in America says that.
Odawa and Potawatomi. Bridget, we talked about Potawatomi.
We did. You know what, Taylor Lautner? You can't have any of my money, okay? You have enough.
Close
I'm just kidding. He's
browser
like
tab.
actually like a really nice guy.
Close browser tab with prejudice.
He's a really nice guy. Actually.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. So I didn't continue the thought. It is emo-ish. He did have a band and an album that dropped 14 years ago. That's
It's a
great.
little bit embarrassing that you're finding such deep cuts in his life for him, but
I will find in post, first his SoundCloud and second his discography.
love it.
In our blog, hopefully not in our show notes.
I love it.
Let's talk about the telegraphing of emotions when George is reunited with his family. Because first of all, when they're in the car and George goes, he looks mad. She goes,
Wouldn't you be if you had to live with a face like that?
wow, you just shortened 3 sentences into one.
Well, it was amazing.
He looks mad.
It's not how he looks, George. It's how he feels. And right now, I'm guessing he's glad you're home.
And the whole scene plays out in that fashion. Nobody's saying or doing the things that they actually feel. But why is that great? Why did it get me emotional? Here's the most emotional moment in that scene. And tell me if you agree with me.
Okay.
Shorty goes to Chi.
You're a man of your word.
Yeah, you're a man of your word, Jim Chi. Chi does that thing that he always does because he's Chi and he's got the Riz. He throws a smile and then he walks away, as a man does. And then Shorty does the thing.
Hey.
Chi turns around and then Shorty just kind of goes, just gives like a upwards nod. And then Chi just smiles again and goes into the car like a 70s porno. I don't know, it's 70s action film.
Oh, God.
These days, that scene would have been bro, and that would have been the whole scene.
There's a channel called The Back Focus. In it, they have the turnaround walk away. It's a thing in movies where it's like, hey, so-and-so. And they go, what? And they go, thanks. And they walk away. It's a common thing in movies. When you actually know that that's not a thing in life, it makes sense for movies, but never in real life. It's demented. But in that moment, that with the little tiny, it was one dialogue, it was one word. And it just had me choked up. That's him saying, thank you for everything.
Well, thank you for everything. We're burying the hatchet, so to speak.
15 years of history or whatnot.
Yeah, just like all of this drama and anger and resentment towards each other. Now, we've seen them essentially bury that over this season, but this kind of clinched it. There is just something overwhelmingly emotional about the scene, even though there's minimal dialogue. And so, brava to all of the actors, because
Show, don't tell.
this is a phenomenal example of that. When we see the little one-armed, Travis calls that a church hug.
Speaking of clinching, right?
The one-armed hug. What you're seeing is Shorty letting go of generational trauma, essentially.
Trying out this thing called hugging.
Yeah, like I'm gonna give this a shot. I'm not gonna be the cold person that I have been to my son to this point. I'm gonna show him that I care about him, because he was very worried about his son. This was a great example of it. He's going to break this generational trauma, or at least try. Generational trauma isn't gone in one generation. It usually takes several of people trying to work out, how do I be a better parent than my parent?
Yeah, it starts out with one person deciding to stop the cycle.
My grandmother, she was never hugged as a kid. They were not a touchy-feely family. They were German. They were very stoic. And my grandmother went to college, and she would see people, families coming to pick them up or drop them off, and they would hug. And she thought, that is so beautiful that they do that. They love each other so much. They're showing each other with this embrace. And so she tried it, and her mom was like, what are you doing? And so then when she got older, she thought, I'm going to break this generational trauma. But when you talk to my mom, my grandmother hardly ever touched her.
She doesn't register her effort, but it was happening.
Then you have me, my mother's daughter, who hugs everyone. I love hugging. It's broken over time, but it took several generations to get there. So this little side hug is him saying, I'm going to do my best so that my children are better than I am. Travis just interrupted to say, then I married him and he hates hugging.
Travis, you're in trouble when I meet you someday.
Opposites attract, you know.
Travis, I'm going to teach you how much you love hugs.
He doesn't love hugs.
He says very weirdly, Dave.
Yeah, I know. That was a little bit weird, Dave.
Travis, you'll get the hug that will change hugs forever. I won't tell you from whom. Winks.
Obviously, there's going to be things that you remember about your childhood that you're like, I'm not going to do that to my kids.
And then you end up doing it. It's me following the footsteps of my dad.
Yeah, you're like
working late at night. Not being around for his family.
But you are aware of it. So does that make you automatically try to be better? Maybe.
I like that you got that out of that, by the way.
Again, this scene feels really hopeful. The scene with Bernadette and Chi feels really hopeful. The scene with Joe and his dad feels really hopeful. And then the scene of Joe, I told Dave, because he caught me watching the end of it, I'm like, this is brutal. Listening to the tape, it's a hard watch to watch him hearing these things his wife thought he would probably never hear out loud. But you're left with hope at the end of it. That's why I said, like, maybe this will become more poignant with time. And maybe if we take a step back from it, it'll seem a little bit different.
Oh, no. Let me just say, even though there were things you could, this is why I said it in the beginning, even though you could criticize some things about this episode, like the train scene and whatnot, nothing about it was really wrong. overall, I walked away feeling satisfied. With conflict came resolution. I will say I disagreed with what you were saying about things left hanging compared to the other 2 seasons where they laid the groundwork somewhat for the following season. Season 2 ends off with leaving AJ Vines out in the cold. And then season 3 continues from that vibe. Season 1 has that thing with Frank Nakai doesn't die.
I guess you're right, Dave. I guess it does follow the trend of the other seasons.
It doesn't. I'm disagreeing. It doesn't lay the groundwork for the next season at all. So much more resolution.
I see what you're saying.
I think the only thing that's left hanging is the Joe and Emma thing. And even then, you could end the series there. It would be sad.
You could.
But there is that hopeful element in it that
and
maybe
they were
they ended
already
up getting
signed
together.
for season 4, so it's not like they were worried about it.
That's the best part about this, is that now that there's so much has been wrapped up, are they going to open up a new story that doesn't even consider the other things that happened that are left hanging? And like
So
Frank
yeah, some
Nakai,
things
not
are
George
still left
Nakai.
hanging.
Not George Takai, by the way. Just to kind of say that out loud, it's George Takai.
And he's a Trekkie, so he's worried that he's going to get roasted by the other Trekkies online.
Frank Nakai?
No, you, Dave.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
true.
no, you.
That's true, yeah. The Trekkie community, quote unquote. I go against my tribe, Bridget. That's what makes me special to like everybody on this show.
Well, apparently I don't even count because Voyager's my favorite, so it's fine.
There's a place for you at the table, Bridget. It's a big community. It's a big fandom. Find your tribe.
I don't want to. You guys are nerds.
It's like a self-hating Trekkie.
I'm just cooler than you.
I'm cool because I'm self-hating. It's not cool to be a Trekkie.
I'm cool
even
because
though
I
love
disparage
Voyager.
things that you like.
As long as Dave likes it, disparage it to high hell, even if I like it. Bridget Pakai doesn't die.
I'm going to send you a TikTok later, Dave, that exemplifies exactly what I just did. I'm going to send it to you right now, actually.
What is it? Oppositional defiance disorder? Sure, I don't have it. You have it.
No, I really don't have it, Dave.
Let's go to Chi and Bernadette. Yes, Charity's clapping. Good. Because similarly to the scene with Shorty and Chi, where there's a lot of emotions telegraphed through subtle things. By the way, going into that scene where he's dropping off George, in my notes, I'm like, there's Cecil. Because we hadn't seen him since that one episode where Joe gives him the ant farm.
And his ant farm was laying sideways, and you're like, something happened to him now, too.
Knowing that Cecil's played by twins, whom we saw in the play in the 6th episode, then you see him, and then he hugs George in an actual sort of hug. It's like not quite like he and his dad, like with the shoulder hug. But it was like this kind of like, nah, push it to the side a little bit and we'll hug diagonally, right? We'll hug diagonally so that my dad can hug completely horizontal. But then we go to Bernadette and Chi. I know we're talking about hugs too much, or me at least, awkwardly, maybe a little cringely. But what's weird is when Chi and Bernadette see each other at the end and there's no words. It's like they're visually hugging each other. And then Chi lets out
a little giggle.
That little laugh, that little guffaw almost. He's aware that we're seeing this the same way, that this is the most adorable boy meets girl after this weird hero's journey that they've both been on.
It was cute.
It's adorable.
It was really cute. Bernadette's hair looked phenomenal in that scene.
I know,
too.
like a horse's hair.
Oh my gosh, it was beautiful.
Do you remember when I said that he was taking care of the horses and that's one of the horses he used?
Yeah.
I was like, yes. I didn't care about being right at that point. It was just like, what am I watching here? This is like romantic porn right now. It's like, I'm getting something out of this, but it's not the thing you're thinking. And it's more a heart erection.
His heart grew 3 times that day.
My heart was engorged with blood.
I'm so glad that
As it
she
normally is.
kicked Munoz to the curb. Get out of here, Munoz.
I felt bad.
I felt bad too. I felt
Considering
bad
what
because
they
it was
went
the
through.
opposite of what Joe got out of it. He asked for hope and she said no. Just
Yeah.
straight up no.
She's pretty moralistic, and he was taking the payoff, even if he didn't spend it or whatever. He lied to her. Maybe like more of a lie of omission, but still.
I was very sad about Ivan. We talk about trauma
Yeah.
bonding all the time, but this was the exact opposite of what happens with the trauma bond.
Trauma breaking?
That trauma makes people separate. I guess that is a thing, though, by the way. But you'd think they would be stronger and grow together. But I don't know. Does that mean that when Bernadette does come back, that there'll be something there with she and Joe? Because we had talked about this, that he nerfed BJ Vines and didn't talk about it with anybody until finally he did with Emma. She maybe knows, maybe not. Bernadette definitely doesn't know, but if she finds out,
Yeah, I know. I had said that would really sully her image of him.
maybe.
Could kind of give her an identity crisis in some way too, since she relies so heavily on him to kind of set the foundation for who to be.
And his code. But then there was the thing that she said when she was leaving Ivan, And this didn't jar me necessarily, but I did want to talk about it. Ivan says, what are you going to do after this? And she says, I'm going to pray. And if there's any room left over for you, I'll pray for you too. Something to that effect.
Yep.
I wanted to know what you guys gauged from that, because I always thought Bernadette was spiritual, upheld her traditions, believes in the medicine bags and stuff like that. It's not a bad thing. It's not dialogue that I'm used to from Bernadette on a spiritual level. Or maybe we haven't returned to that, and it's such a long time that it kind of took me out. What did you make of that one set of dialogue?
Maybe it was pray like Prey and not PRA.
Had subtitles on. She's going to be hunting for ass? Is that what you're saying? Or cheese ass is like a thing that they love doing to each other?
I'm going to pray, and if there's room, I'll pray for you. So she's going to go out and find her some meat, and then if she has room left after she's eaten, she'll come back and pray on him too.
I see.
Yeah.
If you know what I wink.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, thanks. And he heads back into the U.S. Border Patrol office. That's how it ended. She was like, foreplay. And he's like, no. And leaves.
No. Emma and Joe is similar now to Ivan and Bernadette. Both women in this case are saying like, what you've done is beyond me forgiving in this moment. For Bernadette's a little more firm than Emma. And the men both did what they felt like was as right as it could be in the moment. Obviously, Joe's is more
Personal. To them and
personal.
Emma.
It's more noble in a way. It is different because Ivan was just kind of trying to save his own skin. But there's similarities there. So when she's saying pray, and then we get that scene at the end, we're hearing again that Emma is relying on her traditions and the old ways and doing the ceremonies. That's kind of what I viewed that as.
To reconnect.
You're maybe not spiritual, but I am. And I am going to use all my energy to try to wash this off of me. When I'm done doing that, if I have any space left, I will then do that type of ceremony for you.
That's such a great mirror for what Joe, outside the joke about sex with Barbara, Senna and Barbara, his wife, there was some conversations that were either post-seeded or preceded that where he says, we actually met in college. Had my dad not sent me to college, I would never have met her. There's that. But then there's the war beat the Navajo out of me. This is something we actually talked about. We thought it was the school maybe, but I think, Charity, it was you in making a parallel between Joe and Shorty Bowlegs. He's whistling at night, that whole thing. Just like Shorty, Joe also may have had the Navajo beat out of him. And so he and Emma, their resulting relationship, the fry bread barbecue, which, by the way, I've had the pleasure of having fry bread in my early 20s. And it's like, how do I wait 26 years to have fry bread again? Because it was such a great experience. But anyway, I just love that there's a mirror there between those two characters. And also now there's a mirror between Bernadette and Joe in that respect, in that I've just gone through this experience, which has been harrowing. I was alone with nobody around to trust until you were finally trustworthy. The difference is where they kind of have to go the other way is Joe and Emma have a history, 24 years. Whereas Ivan and she, they don't owe each other anything. You could develop a relationship out of this trauma. Their foundations are built on this trauma, not reconnection. So I can see that being as unsustaining. So, Bridget, I'm very, very thankful I asked the question because I have a better understanding of that dialogue in that scene. In a sense, she's saying in the kindest way possible. Like you said, I'm taking care of me first, but at the end of it, I'm thinking of you. But I'll think of you and pray for you, but from a distance is kind of the implication. Show, don't tell.
I let you into my life, so I do feel something for you, but I'm not willing to allow you to remain in my life any longer.
Or to make a life from that.
Yes, correct.
I don't owe you that. I'll think of you fondly.
Not even that, Dave. When I think of my ex, I don't think of him fondly.
Oh, God.
This is just part of healing. I hope that he's better. I hope that he's a better person now because he was angry.
If not for him, the people around him.
Part of that is like emotional maturity, being able to look past it and say like, okay, I can't trust you ever again. So we're not going to be able to make this work. But I did at one point have feelings for you. And so I do still want you to succeed in life.
I was thinking more of we're square, but I need to take care of me. But also there's never going to be a thing out of this because this is this all happened so quickly.
Sure.
And we really don't have the foundation under which we could actually have a thing.
She left the job. The job wasn't anything she expected it to be. Really, how are you going to make this work anyway?
Yeah, I had this vision at the end of my first watch of her. Well, I can't be a U.S. Border Patrol person, but the U.S. Marshals, I'm imagining it's U.S. Marshals that came in and took away the Ed Henry and Linda Garza. Yeah. It's so fun because, she can just shoot for that. She could just become a U.S. Marshal. So it's like a cool idea.
I mean, she could. I like that she goes back to the res. She clearly
me
is
too.
missing the detective portion of the work, the solving of the crimes, obviously.
What did she tell Ivan? She says, put your hands up, put the cuffs on right hand first.
Yeah.
Muscle memory.
Yeah. So she's missing that. It was nicer to see her go back to the res. Yeah, of course, we love the Chi and Bernadette story, and we want to see that, but it was okay to take a break from it. Chi had to grow in order for this to be sustainable.
Right.
And Bernadette had to see that there was other things out in the world.
Like we'd said in the first few episodes.
They both had to grow, and they have now, which is great. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Whereas compared to the train narrative in this episode, where, okay, we're here, who cares, whatever. We know who the killer is. I know you have to do it, and you have to do it, and that's fine. It wasn't a bad thing. I enjoyed watching the train thing. When it comes to discussing, it's a whole other thing. There's not much to tell, and it's less interesting. But when it comes to Chi and Bernadette, even though logically we know that they will get together, the show made it seem, and we even talked about the possibility of them not being together. And because of that, them getting together at the end has so much more payoff because there was doubt.
Yeah.
Just like there was doubt that this person killing Ernesto Cata and going after George Bowlegs was a demon. But we got that resolution in the last episode. So when it came to this episode,
that's why it takes a back seat to everything else that's going on because of that.
Right. But what you get out of it, it's really not for the sake of Reynolds and solving the crime, but it's knowing that Joe could be who he always was. Whereas those first several episodes of the season, he was nothing like himself. He couldn't do his police work. He's unfocused. He's scared. He's timid. Being asked questions and he's being asked to repeat the question. Like, Joe, are you all there? Can we jump back before we go to Spencer? Because we started talking about Budge and the scene was great. And we talked about the feather being Joe Jr.'s buckle, his rodeo buckle. And then had that not happened, she wouldn't have had the weapon with which she could dispatch Budge. That's fine. But there was something in particular in the scene that I really wanted to talk about because we talked about Raul Max Trujillo's background being in New York City. And I love how they brought that in to his character. Because first of all, his accent dropped. He had sort of an accent before when he was talking to the Panther and everybody else in history. Yeah. And then when he was talking to Bernadette, he felt like he could be his true self. And so he didn't have a, sort of south of the border Mexican accent or anything like that. He says not everything is as it seems. Sweet, spicy. Not all Mexican food is spicy.
That would have been more interesting if they had done that with him in the first scene that we see him with the Panther, and then they had done that again here. The thought that they're going to be dead so it doesn't matter. I wish that they had done that. That really would have sold that, because otherwise it just feels like the actor didn't know what he was doing.
No, I register as the opposite, is that she is worthy of having this soliloquy, whereas the Panther, not at all, didn't give him a word when he was burying him.
Yeah, but there's no evidence to confirm that that is what happened, and it's not just like the actor slipping out of it.
There is evidence because he has a conversation, first of all. Let's start there. Second, it's what he says and how he says it. So what he says is two parts. One is he admits he went to Reedsville Penitentiary, talks about his experience about radio and how it has reach. But the radio station he was listening to was 900 miles away, WNBC in New York City, which probably Raul Max Trujillo was listening to way back in the day, which I love. So there's that. So he's giving of himself, whereas before with Panther, he was not. He was just like, this knucklehead. Why is he spitting sunflower seeds everywhere? I have no qualms about killing this guy without a word, let alone a backstory. But there's something else that he says in this. He's talking, again, because he's a psychopath. He's not talking to Bernadette. He's annoyed and talking to himself. Because what he says is, at first I thought I'd feel bad about killing you. But when I see you squealing like that, and realizing that you kind of just did this to yourself, I can enjoy this a whole lot more and have kind of like a clean conscience. But for psychopaths, a clean conscience for psychopaths is, this wouldn't feel as satisfying, but I still have to do it. But now I can feel really satisfied in killing you because you were so annoying. Like, we thought you'd just get along to get on. And you'd be like, I'm annoying Bernadette. I was on a corkboard somewhere, to not approach for this thing, which we find out later. You were in the corkboard because we were told to stay away from you, by the way. Garza was just supposed to keep an eye on you, basically, to make sure you weren't getting into any trouble. Which, by the way, all of that makes so much more sense, how he knew to go to the station at such times. Do you remember when she was supposed to go on that date with Ivan and then Budge picks her up? Who called Budge? but Alinda. And Budge is just like, he's toying with his prey. I get it. We both have jobs to do. You know what I do. I know what you do. Let's not get in each other's way. Don't be annoying. I get so much out of this, knowing his past, knowing the CIA spook thing, that this is a result of him having done time, now working with the CIA to be covert, and then probably working for himself.
Well, you just said a minute ago, like toying with his prey, and that kind of made me think of Sylvia, because
Sylvia, right?
he is like the opposite, because Sylvia didn't really mess with Joe. She beat around the bush a
She
little bit at
was.
first, but then she was like, no, I think I got you. She didn't play with him. She was the cat that just smacked her paw down and missed.
No, what you're saying is sort of right. She just wasn't a psychopath. What's the opposite of a psychopath? That was her. Actually kind, and you couldn't tell more when she gives Joe the tape recorder.
Mm-hmm.
She could have left it there. They do understand each other. They both say okay, which is something I just want to briefly bring up right now. It's nebulous where the term okay comes from, and they both say it.
She told him flat out, I know you did it, but I can't do anything about it, so I'm not going to.
And that'll be that.
Maybe, again, we go with the train analogy, maybe you can get back on the right track.
Yeah, I can't do anything about this, but what I can do is something about what's going on between you and Emma,
Mm-hmm.
which I loved. I didn't have to come here. I didn't have to say goodbye. I could have just left. She goes out of her way to see Joe, to give him the tape. It's not like an F you. It's like, I know what you did. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to I'm not going to go out of my way to kill you. Also, there's that. I know you're a killer that didn't get his justice, so I'm not going to kill you like you killed BJ Vines. There's a mirror there too. She felt justified. I could take you out. But she wasn't personally affected by Joe, so there's that.
Someone else who couldn't stop a man from doing something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not to say that she would. But anyway, okay. They both say okay. And I find that kind of interesting because okay has two meanings. One is what is often thought of as the Choctaw word okay, which is so it is, or it is so, or that it is. But also in Lakota, and it's misattributed to Crazy Horse, but it's actually Low Dog, often borrowed by the Klingon, speaking of Star Trek. Today is a good day to die.
See, he's a nerd. I told you guys.
Normally used as a rallying
dork.
cry before battle, but also that things are right in this world at present. So I could go today, and it would be okay.
Is
It'll be
that the
fine.
etymology of the word okay?
Yes.
No, there's two originations. One is the
There are
use
multiple.
of Old Kinderhook. I cannot remember which president it was.
Kinderhook.
It was Van
Van
Buren.
Buren.
He was from New York, so he was called Old Kinderhook. Okay. And there was also a trend in the 1800s to spell things wrong. You have to read on it because it's really weird. Instead of saying all correct, ALLCORRECT, it was all OLL correct,
Correct.
With a K.
KORRCT.
Wow.
Again, I listened to
A
the podcast
about
it.
okay. But there's so many attributions for this word.
Well, it's just
Even in
interesting
Greek.
because the way that we use it now, it is that so it is kind of.
So the Choctaw.
We're not saying all is correct. That's not really what okay means in our vernacular today. When we say okay, it usually means meh, in between.
It's changed over the years of just like
yeah,
all
yeah,
other
of
words.
course. Yeah, of course.
Use and meaning changes.
It's just interesting to see that even if the etymology came from somewhere else, that the Choctaw's meaning for it maybe is more relevant than the original etymology.
Even through other languages, that word means the same thing. There's a Greek version of this. It just means the same
Sounds like it. Okay.
thing. Scottish, same. Also, your
Okay.
people, Bridget, I think, maybe. Who knows?
No, actually, I'm not Scottish
Not even
at
a
all.
lick of Scottish.
Not that I'm aware of. English and Irish and German.
So you missed one part of the island, went to
Yeah. People were not spoken to again. It's pretty serious.
common.
Yeah.
People died with their family feuds. Sylvia and Joe, and her being kind and Budge being a psychopath. I love that comparison because it's the character in Bernadette's life and Sylvia's the character in Joe's life. And there is a lot of symmetry between Bernadette and Joe rather than Joe and she, which is kind of how we sort of came into this. Obviously, there's like a father-daughter imagery between Joe and Bernadette. And she comes in, it's like, I get this kid and it's cool. Let's hang out together more in season 1 and season 2. But then you get more of Bernadette being away completely from Joe in this season. And yet they go on a similar kind of journey, or at least a similar kind of annoying force. So I love it. I love it. It's like an yin and yang, but one's a psychopath. One's quite nice, actually. She just is forced to not be nice, which takes us to Tom Spencer in 2 scenes. And I know you're going to want to talk about the first scene, Bridget, because you're a resident Christian.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Unless you don't want to talk about Romans 13:12. So when I pulled up Romans 13:12, it actually brought me to Romans 13:11 through 14. And let me just say what they are now. And do this knowing the time that now is high time to awake out of sleep. For now our salvation is nearer than we first believed. 12. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Therefore, let us cast off works of darkness, dark winds, and let us put on the armor of light. 13. Let us walk properly / decently as in the day, not in revelry and drunkenness, not in lewdness and lust, not in strife and envy. 14. But put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill its lusts. He says this to his wife in the hospital, who is suffering cancer, I think is what was said.
Yeah, it seems something that's killing her.
Made her bedridden, yeah. It's really about praying for the second coming and then adjusting accordingly to
The header for
prepare
this
for
this section is called "The Day Is Near." Within a chapter, there'll be like headers because this chapter has 3 headings in it, so it just kind of breaks everything up. But "The Day Is Near" is what this one is called.
So act accordingly.
The end is coming, and you should act right. Get your house in order.
That is so interesting because if you think about, because I did want to go to this one thing. Let me jump back to Reynolds for a minute. In the beginning of the episode, he leans into being the villain. He becomes the monster, even though he is a man. I liken this a lot to The Stranger, Albert Camus. It's absurdist and whatnot, but the main character finds no meaning in anything, picks up the meaning. He takes on the purpose of being the bad guy because everybody thinks I am anyway. So I might as well embrace the part. So when you look at Reynolds and you see him inadvertently left BJ Vines in the middle of nowhere, he wasn't trying to kill Teddy necessarily. He was just trying to stop her from making the call. But in that, he ends up killing Teddy. She fell. It wasn't his fault. She fell backwards and hit her head on the table and died. He embraced the monster role, whereas Joe is wrestling. Good people never get away with anything because they have themselves to hold themselves to account. So at the end of the episode, when he lets George go and he sees what he did, because he didn't have to take George hostage. The jig was up. The mere holding him hostage at gunpoint meant the jig was up. What was he protecting at that point? And he realized that when Joe said, let George go, let the boy go. He's just a boy. And so when he does the whole suicide by cop thing, it's exactly like you're saying, Bridget. Get your house in order. Make things right. In Reynolds' mind, he figured he's gone too far. There's nothing left to fight for.
You're talking about the Spencers. It's the opposite of what Spencer is doing. Now, you could argue that that's what he's doing at the end is he's prioritizing his wife. But some of it is also like, are you just running?
And what is it for?
Yeah.
Is it for yourself?
I don't know. And we may never know. This could come back in. It could not. I mean, we've seen what happened with Frank Nikai. We haven't seen anything. BJ Vines' wife does come back, but then she leaves again and we don't really know much more about that. So it could just be that he's gone and that's the end of it. And he got off scot-free, and sometimes that happens and it's unfortunate, but it's just an interesting choice of scripture because one, it's not really applicable to the wife's situation. It's more applicable to his, like the end is coming for him because he says like, I've made sure that I can't get in trouble for this. Essentially, but my reputation will be ruined. What will people think? They'll think that we don't care and we don't know what's happening on our land, which is ludicrous because you could literally be like, my wife is dying. That's why I don't know what's happening on my land. But he cares so much about his reputation in the community and what happens is him owning this property that he can't even see past. The whole thing is ridiculous.
He is ultimately responsible over his ranch, though.
Correct.
The buck stops with him.
Correct. One, no criminal charges are coming back on him, is what he's saying. I made sure my butt's covered. So really, it's just about reputation in this instance. And couldn't you say, I'm dealing with bigger stuff right now? My wife is dying?
I just want to dig into why you think he's right about that. I don't know if I take him at his word because I guess, is it to say, because maybe I'm having trouble with it, because is it because the U.S. Border Patrol, and Henry kind of takes the responsibility or the blame if anything were to go down?
He's set it up. I mean, he's a smart guy. Spencer is a smart guy. I think we can all agree on that. He has set this all up so that none of this comes back on him, is what he thinks. Now, is that 100% true? I don't know. You wouldn't know until there was a court date. But it's quite possible that it all falls back on Henry. And that appears to be what happens.
Right. I think I know what's going on here, if I may. In a sense, it's not making things right for the second coming. I think it's really the way both Ed Henry, because they're brother-in-laws, Tom Spencer and Ed Henry.
I know, which is crazy to set up your brother-in-law, but okay.
But no, this is the thing. When we talk about sacrifice and what do we do this for? Why did Joe go after BJ Vines? Was it just for his son? So there is a little bit of symmetry between Joe and Tom Spencer in that, in a way, I think he does this all for Charlotte. that you are the angel to whom I am offering my sacrifice and trying to get my house in order, even if I have to do bad things to do it.
Well, I mean, to some degree, it sounds like she was kind of the mastermind behind it.
When I saw that, I thought it was more like she made the books right, but in a way that saved the...
No, it sounded like she was cooking the books.
That's what I thought too.
It wasn't 100% clear to me, because I was thinking that as well, but I was thinking more along the lines of, let's use a little bit of the parlance of the times.
It's the language he used. Saying fixed the books means
Cooked the books is what you
cooked
mean.
it. Yeah.
Which means laundering and whatnot, and just moving numbers here and there to make it look bigger than it is for loans and
Faking
stuff.
the entirety of your books to reflect that there's nothing going on.
So that's the easy out. I think there may be more to this, because if you consider the time, Spencer does mention to the side that his sons, one had died. It could be suicide after coming back from the war. The other one was lost in the Korean War. Remember, losing children? That's a symmetry also between he and Joe. They just went the other way. There is symmetry also with the wives, too, because Emma saved Joe. The Navajo was beat out of him after the war, and she helped him reconnect with himself and his culture.
Yeah, but if Spencer is meant to be a dark representation of Joe Leaphorn's story, then it makes sense that his wife just digs him further in. Instead of helping to lift him out, which is what Emma is trying to do, she's digging down deeper with him and saying, look, we'll just do it this way, and then it works out. So it's almost like instead of someone lifting you up, someone's dragging you down. They still both feel the same love and the same appreciation, and
Devotion.
they owe their wives as a result.
And look at the difference, too. Okay, let me say where Tom Spencer is actually, because I do know. At the end of the episode, Tom Spencer is with his wife, albeit she is suffering an illness that we aren't 100% clear on. And yet Joe is apart from his wife. Not very far away, but still apart. We don't know when she's coming back. He doesn't know, which is more important than us.
To be fair, Caroline has a zero say in it. Charlotte.
Right. But again, that's different too, right? She's a captive audience to his prayers for the second coming. Did you get the good news? Yeah, Charlotte got an earful. But anyway, so Tom Spencer is in Morocco. You wouldn't know that.
Okay.
I pulled the image up into Google Images, and it's literally the same shot from the same vantage point, only reversed imaged.
Interesting.
So it's really weird. But it is Morocco, and it's a place called Essaouira.
It's beautiful.
Essaouira. And Charity might know about this, but this is typically at the time, this is like around Michener, James Michener, what is it called? Not the Runaways.
The author?
Yeah, but it's the hippie trail. All the hippies and beatniks went to Morocco, to this place in Morocco, to kind of wander around, and the shooks and all that stuff, and be all their hippie selves, to the point where this was a common place for Jimi Hendrix to be at the time, as well as Cat Stevens, who became
Yusuf.
Islam. Yeah. And Frank Zappa, too. So I thought that was a good point in time. Now, there's more to this that I want to say just about this part. You can look at it that way, where she cooked the books and saved the business. If you look at it the other way, it kind of works too, because, listen, we're talking about the early part of the 20th century, pre-women's lib, essentially.
1950s.
Okay. How old is Tom Spencer? Right? It wasn't him that was in the war that Joe Leaphorn was also in. It was his kids. So this is pre-women's lib. Although they got a taste of it in the Second World War with industrialization and having to ramp up for wartime stuff, things went back to normal, but not really, because it bubbled up in the late 50s, 60s. And then civil rights movement, etc. Men were typically the breadwinners across the board. And so you could easily see a world in which Tom Spencer himself was, again, drowning his family legacy into the dirt. And now with his kids gone and them both being broken, he was probably already doing a piss poor job, first of all, because maybe he wasn't built for this. Let's look at the positive way. His wife gets involved in the actual job, in the actual business, and she fixes it. She actually knows mathematics and fixes the business, but then she gets sick. So Tom has to somehow save the company in some fashion. So he goes back to either his old ways or finds a new way of saving his land. And so she's out down for the count. And it's not for the business or the legacy and all that stuff he talked about initially. It's for his wife. I like that idea a little bit. That's very romantic, obviously. But he's doing bad things for a good reason, for her. A person who saved his family's legacy. His wife.
Sure, that's fine.
I'm
I'd be willing to accept that. I don't think it really matters all that much.
I only picked this up because these little details, like losing children in terrible ways, too. One in war, one They don't really say, but it sounded like...
I wouldn't have been so hung up on the legacy thing, but one is all he has left because he doesn't have any kids. So legacy is literally all he has left.
Right.
But it's just because of how he states, what would everybody say about my family? What would they say about the Spencers? That's why I landed on legacy being his priority.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. I think it's more like the weight of what this land means to your generations of your family who were here from the onset, and you can make arguments about how they got that land. It's, sure, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But still, you got there, you made a life for yourself, and then you're the one who ruined it, and your kids are gone. It's almost like your life is over, the jig is up, people know that you were chipping the thing from the arrowhead, and then you killed a kid, and then you tried to go after another kid. It's almost as though the jig was already up, but you decide to continue to do bad things. Symmetry between Reynolds and Spencer, in a way.
Quit
Spencer
talking
got
about
away with
Reynolds.
it.
I don't want to talk about Reynolds anymore. This guy is such a nothing burger.
But Spencer in Morocco? My gosh. I thought that was interesting.
I wish he had been a demon, because at least then you would have been exciting.
I'm so disappointed that he wasn't an ancestor.
I'd almost forgotten. On that note, I actually want to bring up this thing. I actually just saw this last night. It's a very long movie called The Wailing. It's a Korean movie. And it does have to do with suspicion.
Wait a minute, wailing like crying or wailing like killing whales?
Wailing like crying. Because it's a common trope in, well, not a trope, I would say more of a cultural thing. When somebody passes, it's encouraged to wail after their loss, to cry very loudly. It's a very common thing in Korean culture, at least Korean, if not Japanese, Chinese, etc. But very dramatically in Korean, you're expected to wail after the loss of loved ones. And so this movie has a lot to do with kind of like when we're talking about native suspicion or Navajo suspicion or Navajo ghost stories, etc., that sort of thing, spirits, dirt devils, etc. It's similar. This movie deals with modernism. Bridget loves conspiracy theories because there's no mystery anymore. But it's also kind of absurd in the modern era where you have internet and phones and whatnot, and things are mundane, and there's no excitement. I wish the zombie apocalypse would come. It's these two mindsets colliding, because when you start to see crazy stuff happening, you almost don't believe it. Oh, it's just mushrooms, which is what was said in the movie.
This movie sounds weird.
It is. It's 157 minutes of...
What he left out is that this is also like an art movie. Like this.
No,
is...
it's not. It's a horror.
It's minutes.
It's
oh my
horror.
God, that's so long.
It's horror?
Definitely horror,
okay.
But it's also very long. But is it a devil? Is it a spirit? Is it a ghost? Who's the ghost? Is it him? Is it her? Is it them?
It's me because I'm dead. Please, somebody let me rest in peace.
If I hug your husband and he likes hugs, will you be able to rest, ghost, Bridget? Will your soul be at rest?
I don't know. Just finish the damn point about this stupid movie.
I wouldn't recommend it for most people, but maybe you'd
I
like
love
it, Bridget.
horror, though.
Yeah, you might like it, but it's a long movie.
It sounds like a long movie.
It's
157 minutes is long.
The thing that I love most about the movie was sort of the takeaway, is that in the mundane, just don't forget to take the things that you love for granted.
Don't forget to not take them for granted.
Don't forget to not take... See? I don't take you for granted for correcting me.
Don't forget to take the things you love for granted.
Don't forget to
just look past them completely. You don't
ignore your
need
daughter
to
when she's trying
them.
to talk to you. The whole thing is, it centers around a main protagonist who's this very jaded human being. He takes a lot of things for granted. He's not a very good protagonist. He's kind of a dopey police officer, not good at his job at all. But he also has a daughter, and he's not really the best with her as well. He's good with her. But he's like, why are you crying? Whatever. You don't realize what you have until it's gone sort of situation.
Okay.
And so I think that's the focal point of it. All the other stuff is just frightening and scary and weird and makes you very unsettled. And it's also, why is there so much wailing? It's called The Wailing.
I really pictured like a sick movie about haunting whales. I don't know why. I can't get it out of my head now.
That sounds like a
that sounds like
spooky
pretty
ship
cool,
movie.
actually.
Oh, you said you loved the discovery of how the drugs was actually...
I don't love anything anymore. Yeah, I do.
You did love that. The tray of oil underneath.
Yeah, it was really clever. But what happened with the yellow balls? See, this is why I was pissed. What happened with the yellow balls, Dave?
I think I know, though. Well, they had to basically pack all the drugs and get rid of the evidence from the property. So there's no time to waste. Let's use the tray. Pack as much drugs in this tanker as we can and get the F out. We're already across the border.
I mean...
But remember, the balls were just between Juarez and the ranch.
In the episode when Bernadette climbed to the top and was looking in, I know that I was thinking maybe there's something that in there, but I don't remember if I said anything during the recording of the episode or not. But I know I did think about that maybe there was something underneath the oil and that she didn't look.
Yeah, it could be. You know what it is? We're just too focused on the
Yellow
mechanics.
balls.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the problem.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember the yellow balls.
Why did they hold the shot on him for so long, Dave? Why?
Just to explain the order of operations, the yellow balls were just meant to truck the oil with the drugs in the ball, in the oil, from the actual Sol de Oro facility to Spencer Ranch across the border. Once it was in the ranch, the drugs would just go in normally because there's no inspection. They're in the United States and then could be distributed accordingly. That's fine. No weighing after it gets to Spencer Ranch. Just to give you the full picture, that's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get the drugs out of there into the reservation, make one last big ass, huge ass haul, and probably be done with it for now.
It was pretty clever. I thought it was a good
idea.
idea.
Then how it went down, Bernadette arresting the bug-eyed truck driver and trying to get away.
I love that he made that fit look at Alinta because it just emphasized how big his eyes were. So the fact he was like,
like nods this way with his big old bug eyes.
Funny. It was very, very funny to me.
Well, and of course, Garza just going, I'm sorry. And then Bernadette punching her lights out. Perfect. I love it when a plan comes together.
Go Bernie. Go Bernie.
Yeah, well, she needed to get punched. It was good.
Get a punchable face.
Yeah.
You don't Charlie's Angels with somebody and then betray them. Or whatever that shot with.
Alinda did.
The Whedon shot? What is it called? Joss Whedon?
Yeah.
You don't do that to a buddy and then betray them. It's terrible. I think today's a good day to die, and if you think it's okay,
wow,
why don't you go ahead and do that without all the noises? I'm a Trekkie who only likes Voyager. Well, today's a good day to die, and if you think it's okay, why don't you head on over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. 5 stars and a half hug is all we need to know that you love us. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. I didn't like that very much either. Remember to tell us after every single episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, like this video, comment, share, do all the things, because that helps and it's free. And we like it that you like us if you show us that you love us. And if you really like what you've heard and you want this to continue, even though Bridget wants this to end,
literally,
just temporarily, just to get her strength back.
Just right now, just in this moment.
Yeah, just for now. Tip us on Ko-fi. You'll get access to our unedited episode recordings, my pre-squawk insights, as well as forever access to our Discord. And if you happen to join a membership tier for as little as $4 a month, you will get more access to our Discord, as well as those perks in perpetuity, discounts, and free things in our Ko-fi shop. Take advantage of our request section where you can get a shout out for $10 in this episode saying whatever you want me to say in this episode. And we'll send you a copy of it, don't worry. And if you are an advertiser, you can actually buy advertising at the top, middle, and end of our podcast. You'll find out more about that in ko-fi.com/squawkingdead/commissions, I think it is. Speaking about memberships, if you happen to join the Whisperers, Survivors, or Great M tier, you will get a free classic t-shirt upon signing up. If you join the Survivors or Great M tier, you can show up in these episode breakdowns alongside us. This episode was made available to the public. You could have been on this panel with us talking about this episode alongside us. And if you happen to join the Great M tier, the Greatest Ish tier, you could be in the core channel where we talk about things that we cannot share with most people, but we will share with you, and you can weigh in on how this podcast does more things because you'll be a part of it all. You're a junior producer. Hooray for you. You earned that right. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by
Sharon D, Lazy Gardner,
and Bridget. You can find me at ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
This is the last and final episode for a while of Dark Winds, and we just want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
This has been fun, actually.
We really, really thank you for joining us on this ride, and we appreciate that you appreciated this discussion, and it means a lot to us from the comments that we received from Iris Boysenberry on Spotify and from Neo is the One on YouTube, and a whole handful of you on either of those two platforms which we got comments from. None from your ratings, by the way. Just want to throw shade at the audience for not rating us at ratethispodcast.com. No, I've appreciated all the comments, even some of the ones that weren't.
I saw one last night that I was wow. But
they went out of their way to say something
to
which
be
meant,
mad. It's fine.
It's okay.
Hey, you know what? It all helps the algorithm, buddy, so stay mad.
But even if the ones, and I'm not talking about those, I'm talking more about the ones where they were a little bit more critical about what we've said. That's okay. We take it in stride. We want to do better by you if we can. And if we can't, shrug it over our shoulder, take note of it, and we'll move on. But again, the fact that you went out of your way to do anything at all, and that you kept hanging in there to see what we do next, means a lot. So thank you. We've loved this season of Dark Winds, and I can only imagine what the next episode of Dark Winds shall bring, considering the end of this episode. So thanks, everybody. we'll see you in the next one in a couple years. But no, we're going to be live tomorrow night. Ha, ha, ha.
Literally.
Yay!
So hope you watch The Last of Us.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the 3rd episode of The Last of Us. So be there live
Another
with us.
hour of joy and fun.
Mhm.
She makes it sound terrible. Another hour of joy, quote unquote, and fun, quote unquote.
I meant the show, not us. I have fun with us. I'm talking about watching the show.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Everybody. Right. It's torture porn. So bye, everybody. We'll see you very soon. And hang in for our other
Bye.
discussions. We got more to come like Dead City, so we'll see you very soon.
It's true.
Adios, amigos. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.
Would want to be you.
I would. Well,
Because
maybe.
it's so
Depends.
hard being myself.
Yeah. Being me hasn't been super great, but it's all right now.
It's actually kind of easy. Just lean into it. One more round of thank yous to all of you who stuck around, asked about, and participated in our discussions of Dark Winds, mostly season 3, as we come to the close of its 3rd season with its episode Béésh, which means Iron Horse. The only bit of housekeeping that I have at the end of this wonderful close to the 3rd season is to consider listening to our other conversations on other television properties, namely at the moment, The Last of Us on HBO Max, and of course, 2nd season of The Walking Dead Dead City, which we're actually going to be recording today, and every Sunday for the next 6 weeks, roughly around 4 to 6 p.m. on Sundays. We go live discussing The Last of Us' 2nd season every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern US time. And of course, you know the drill. We like to thank our Whisperers, Survivors, and Great M tier members in reverse order. It's a little perk that they receive, along with many perks, when you join a membership tier on either Patreon or Ko-fi. Starting with the Great M tier, the Greatest Ish tier, we have at Real Ryan GM on X and Instagram. In the Survivors tier, we have Douglas Atherton at Walking Dead Artist 2 on Instagram. In the Whispers tier, we have at Kim.Rowley, the number 1 on Facebook. It is hard to say goodbye to a show that you've invested in probably more than you actually thought you would. And to all of you out there who are experiencing the same feeling, I empathize with you. But that doesn't mean you have to say goodbye to us. So keep hanging in there, maybe watch the same shows that we're watching, and always remember that we are squawking dead.